G'day Internet, welcome to video 6 in the Stick Ninjas development video series. Today I'd like to apologise in advance that I'm going to be talking about networking again. I'd like to get to the Stick Ninjas blowing each other up as much as you guys, but the networking is sort of the important foundation of this game, so I want to do it first and I want to get it out of the way and working correctly before I get into too much other stuff. So let's get on with it. Now back in video 3 I showed you the Dungeon Project's networking system. So this was for a much slower paced game. It didn't really matter so much about latency, but accuracy was quite important. So since then, changing to Stick Ninjas, accuracy is less important, and latency is extremely important. So it doesn't really matter if the stick guy is a few pixels off, but he needs to get there as soon as possible from the server. So I've had to make some pretty big changes to the networking code underlying all of this. So let's take a look at the network testing application first. So it's very similar to the one I had on the Dungeon project. So you can see we've got the server at the top and a series of clients down below. I can turn on a packet view and I can watch the virtual packets whizzing across the network, and if I slow down time you can get a better look at that. I've added this ruler view that sort of shows the underlying buffers and timestamps that are set on the client and the server that make all of this magic happen. I've added some debugging trails on the stick figure people, so you can see that there in magenta, or of course rainbow mode. So I've built another testing application. Rather than running the game code continuously, this one separates out the game code and it runs it for a few hundred frames, and it then graphs the result of that few hundred frames. So you can see that here. So along the top I've got the various input states for this simulation. So when I change the inputs, it will go back and recalculate those few hundred frames of game simulation and regraph the result. So that lets me see what changes in input states affect the simulation. Now this is still networked, so the magenta line that you see here is the state on the client, and then underneath that there's a black line that shows the state on the server. Now the black line's a bit hard to see because the network that I'm using here doesn't have any packet loss simulation in it yet. But if I zoom in, you can see that there is in fact a black line, and then you can see that the client state is diverging from the server state. So there's some interpolation errors there that I need to write some correction code for. So that's everything that I've got to show you today. I've already told you about a few things that still need fixing up in this network code, and then there's a few more on top of that. So bad news is that next week's episode is probably going to be talking about networking again. I promise we'll get to the stick figures and the ninjas and the blowing up thereof. It will be fun, it will be awesome, but networking first. But if you like networking, then great. So if you want to find out when the next video is posted, I'm doing these weekly, you can subscribe to me on YouTube. You can subscribe to my blog at andrewrussell.net, or you can follow me on Twitter. If you want to know when the Stick Ninjas is available for playable pre-order or alpha or whatever you want to call it, you can head over to stickninjas.com and sign up for the email announcement list and hear about that when it happens. That's everything for this week, so thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. Or of course, rainbow mode.